Hey, buddy. Welcome back to What Was I Thinking? This is Lee. I am Lee. This is Lee. I am Lee. Who's Lee? Me. My name is Lee Syatt, and I'm the host of the What Was I Thinking podcast, also the Wasteland podcast. I've got a ton of stuff for you. I have a YouTube channel. Some of you know about that. It's called YouTube. It's not called. It is youtube.com/Lee Syatt. Check it out. I have content there. I have content coming. I'm the content king. And I'm also the king of snacks. But that, kind of is related. Sort of. Can you call meat a snack? It is to some people. And other people, they hate it. I love meat. And I have had my guest today's meat. I can't even get that. I like that so much. I've had his meat in and around my face. Not that he's a happily married man, and not to me, even though it is legal in this state. And everywhere now, I forget. I'm so old. I think it might be legal everywhere now. It doesn't matter. Neither of us care about that. His name is Jeremy Yoder, and he'll never come on again. But I would love to have him on. That joke was he will never come on because I talked about his meat being around my face. He is a barbecue artist. That's how I'm going to put it. He's a barbecue artist. We met a few years ago when I was doing comedy in LA, and he was selling his meat and sides at the show. And honestly, I've been to Austin. And that's really it for barbecue. But I've been there, and I've had some good barbecue. The barbecue that I had with Jeremy or from Jeremy is still some of the best things that have ever been in my mouth. No joke. Super delicious. And when I met him, he was a teacher and doing the barbecue stuff on the side just because he loved it. And recently, during the pandemic, I was perusing YouTube and Instagram, and I saw that he had a YouTube link in his Instagram bio, which is Mad Scientist BBQ, and I clicked on it. Had some great videos, and also, he's basically a star now. I got very lucky that he agreed to do this. He is, he's taken what he's learned from teaching and really done an amazing job applying it to YouTube videos, because I spend my entire life, essentially, all of my free time, watching videos about food that I will never eat or cook. I've eaten them in the past and I will eat them again, but right now I can't eat them. And I can't cook ever. But he can, Jeremy can. And he has some really informative videos, and a lot of other people on YouTube and Instagram just say, cook this for this long. And I don't know what it's supposed to look like. I don't know how to check to make sure it's right. I'm going to mess up and give myself salmonella. But now I won't, because I'm not sure if red meat gives you salmonella, but more importantly, because I watched Jeremy's videos on Mad Scientist BBQ, not barbecue, Mad Scientist BBQ on YouTube. He's fantastic. He really is fantastic. It was great to talk to him. I am actually, if you enjoy this episode with him, I'm going to have a little bonus on the Wasteland podcast with him, because we spent like half an hour after. He was very generous with his time, and after we spoke, we talked about the problems with losing weight. So I'm going to put that on the Wasteland podcast. I do want to give you a quick little update on me before we start, and then we'll get right into it. I wanted to thank everyone who, like I said, did check out my YouTube channel. I posted the clip from last week's intro where I talked about life after the church, and for me, it went pretty great. I know some YouTuber, Jake Paul, R.I.P. Ben Askren, if he had gotten that amount of views, he would have quit and retired and thought that his life as he knew it was over. For me, to get 50,000 views, I can't, doesn't make sense. But I really do appreciate all of you who support anything that I do, whether it's this podcast, any other podcast, the Patreon, my YouTube, just me. As soon as I get my vaccine and the world opens up again, I'm going to go on a hugging tour of America. I just want to hug all of you. Keep it up here. Don't touch my tushy. But I don't know why I even brought that up. But I love you. Thank you. Speaking of my YouTube, please go check it out. There's clips from these podcasts. The podcasts live up there. And then if you're already here, I noticed a couple weeks ago, someone wrote a comment that I should do some restaurant reviews. And it's almost like you're in my head and in my house with my dad, because when I was with him, and I will bring him on here to prove it to you, that we did talk. I have a little healthy twist on it, but I'm going to start doing some videos like that. I'm going to start doing other videos around Boston, and there's going to be a lot of new things for you to waste your time on. They're good. I'm going to make them interesting, but let's be honest. My phone is essentially a fidget spinner with buttons or no buttons. I guess it has a few buttons. I am going insane. I very much apologize. I've done this intro maybe, no lie, 20 times, and I get to this point where I start rambling about nonsense, and then I stop and restart. But that's not happening this time. We're going to push through it. And you know how we're going to do that? We're going to do that by having good smelling testicles. Yeah. Thank you very much to the sponsor of this podcast, Manscaped. Manscaped supports this podcast, and you support this podcast by supporting Manscaped. And if you don't know, Manscaped is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. They offer precision engineered tools for your family jewels. They obsess over their technology developments to provide you, yes, you there, or the balls that you love, the best tools for your grooming experience. Manscaped is trusted and loved by over 2 million men worldwide. That is roughly 4 million testicles. And that's a lot of testicles. I wouldn't want to be around that many testicles. But you know who wants it around them? They want Manscaped around their testicles. I don't know if that made sense, but I think it did. We have an exclusive offer for my listeners. That's you. 20% off plus free shipping when you use code Syatt, SYATT, at manscaped.com. Honestly, this is a review, but it's more like me letting you know that I got laid, because I did. I got laid, and she wrote a little review because I'm a terrible person, and I made her do it. I didn't make her do it. I suggested that it would help me, and she's a nice person, because if she's willing to be anywhere around my testicles, she deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. But let me just tell you what the perfect what Manscaped has to offer. And the best thing that they have, frankly, is the Perfect Package 3.0. All this stuff, or most of this stuff, you can get individually. But if you want, the best deal is the Perfect Package 3.0, because you're going to save additional money on top of it just by getting them together. And you need all of these things. Trust me. Your balls, or the person's balls that you love, need these products. And trust me, it's going to help everybody out. The way I like to describe it is, let me show you this first, and then I'll show you this is really the first line of defense, because this is the Lawnmower 3.0, okay? This is a third generation trimmer, and it features a cutting edge ceramic blade, to reduce grooming accidents using their advanced skin safe trademark technology. Okay? I'm confident now. I'm not going to cut my balls off with this, as long as we're safe. Don't be a jerk trying to prove me wrong. Just shave your balls and your nuts how you normally do, but just do it with added confidence that your balls will survive. Okay. This is important, because if they don't look good right away, that's a problem. But what do you do after they look good? Okay? They get closer, they approach. If they can smell your balls before they get to your balls, you have a problem. And trust me, you know how they say when you're driving, when you buy a car or lease a car and you drive it off the lot, it immediately loses, I think, 50% of its value. You've heard that. I've heard that. As soon as you get out of the shower, your balls lose 50% of their smell good value. Okay? They smell terrible almost immediately, but not with Manscaped. This is the everyday use, okay? This is the crop preserver. It is an anti-chafing ball deodorant and moisturizer. You don't want dry balls, do you? Do you want someone to put your balls in their mouth and have it feel like cotton mouth? Do you want cotton balls? No. You want nice, juicy, succulent man balls, okay? You don't want cotton balls. Screw those. And how are you going to do that? With the crop preserver. It's anti-chafing, and you know what? It's going to make your balls not stink. And if you're like, well, my balls don't stink. Yes, they do. Trust me, they do. They smell. And you know what else you need to combat the stinky, sweaty, sad balls? Lonely balls, most importantly. It's the crop reviver, okay? This is I'm about to go on my first date after the pandemic. I need my balls to smell good because, like I said, if you take off your underwear, boom, it's shaved up all nice, and they start making the approach. What's that? Stinky balls? No, thank you. Goodbye. I'll see someone else on Hinge. Someone else who uses Manscaped so their balls don't smell like garbage. Okay? And you don't want that in your life. You want your balls to have the love and attention of your favorite person. Okay? That's what you want. I know you want it because I want it. And this is a real review. Not joking. It's a real review. She went a little silly with it, which is, it's funny. But it's just true. I'll put it this way. This is how it opens, and it's true. She goes, they had a clean mouth feel. That's a great clean mouth feel. I could die right now, happy. My balls have been described as having a clean mouth feel. Fresh minerality and a saline finish with a slight hint of mint. That's what I like. That's how I like. I'm glad that she could taste that because I felt like when I put these on, like it was like mouthwash for my nutsack because I felt lighter. I felt like ooh, you know when you spit out mouthwash and it's like ooh, that fresh minty breath. Now you got minty balls. Clean mouthfeel. God, what a great description. I'm just glad that it had that because you guys know. You want your balls, you don't want them to be ignored, right? You don't want someone to be like, yeah, gross balls. You want someone to have fun with your balls. You want them to enjoy your balls as much as you enjoy them. And it's not going to happen if they're stinky, sweaty, disgusting, gross. And if maybe you don't have balls, but someone in your life has balls and you are around them as much or more than they are, get them or get yourself really the crop reviver, the crop preserver, and don't forget the lawnmower 3.0. You need all of these products, and they all come as part of the Perfect Package 3.0. Comes with 2 free gifts. I'm actually wearing the underwear, so I can't show them to you, or the boxer briefs, silky smooth. But this is the Shed. It comes with the Perfect Package 3.0. And it's the best deal they have. It comes with 2 free gifts, like I just said, the boxers, the Shed, and you're getting a discount on, like, you know how sometimes you go to a fast food place and they tell you to get a combo, but you're not really saving any money? You're saving money with it. This is the combo for your nutsack, and it's called the Perfect Package 3.0. Thank you so much to everyone who has used my code, which is the word Syatt, my last name, Syatt. People have been telling me they've been using it, and they've been loving the products. So don't forget, you get 20% off with free shipping when you use code Syatt, Syatt, at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code Syatt. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. We did it. It's time. We talked about your meat. Now let's hear about our meat. Jeremy, again, of Mad Scientist BBQ. Go check out his YouTube page, his Instagram page. He's in the Louisville, Kentucky area getting ready to start catering again when the world opens up. So go check him out. Find him, talk to him, eat his meat, and he'll teach you how to make your meat even better. Thank you very much, Jeremy, for coming on. I'm so excited to have you. Luckily, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about delicious, delicious barbecue and
Yeah.
and your story. So we met, God, like 3 or 4 years ago. I was doing
Yep.
a show at a brewery in a like a I don't think it was a technically a bad area, but it wasn't like the most glamorous area of near
True.
downtown LA. And there's something I used to work. I worked in high school and college at a movie theater, and
Mhm.
we would pre-pop most of the popcorn, but
Yeah.
they also had it going during the night because the smell would bring people in.
Sure.
And I'm less fat now, but I've always been a fat guy, and even if I get skinny, I'm gonna be a fat guy at heart. And so when I parked and smelled your barbecue, I was like the happiest fat dude in America. I just smelled it, and there's something about barbecued meats that just like my mouth is watering now thinking about it. It's amazing.
Yeah. There's something unique about barbecued meats. I think there's something really primal about it. Cooking meat with fire is a tradition in basically every culture I know of, at least.
Yeah,
And when people started killing animals and they started cooking animals, you had the first barbecue. And I think it's something kind of ingrained just for people naturally to like. So there are a few things that you don't have to acquire a taste for. So coffee, most people have to acquire a taste for coffee. A
right.
lot of times people, it smells amazing, but I just don't really like it. And then they
That's
put
me.
cream
Yeah,
and sugar. But yeah. But if you have, say, sugar, you don't have to,
yeah,
acquire a taste
yeah,
for it.
yeah. No one's
Sugar
ever
to
acquired a taste for it. Yeah,
kid, yeah, the kid is like, this is the greatest thing ever. Where did you get this? How do I get more? And with barbecue, I think it's a little bit like that. It's not like the crack cocaine of food like sugar would be, but um, it's just people like it. There's something kind of, I think, within humans to like smoked meat. I
right.
don't know exactly why.
And I don't want to equate it to drugs, but if sugar is crack and cocaine, to me barbecue is sort of like heroin in a weird way because it like
Like the black tar heroin
yeah, you
of the
just
food world.
yeah, and that sound, but it's like heroin, and it like if you eat too much of it, you'll get fat like me, and you could die, I guess. But it's like if you I went to Austin a couple times with Joey, and
Oh yeah,
there's a buddy there named Bobby Sharon who took me around to a couple places, and I never made it to Franklin's, but we went to a few
yeah.
places, and I like ribs, so he tricked me, and he's like, "Oh, get a beef rib, they're really good," and I thought it was just gonna be a regular size rib. So I got some brisket, I got a sausage, and I got a beef rib, and it came, and it was like the Flintstones thing where they put it on the side of the car and the car goes like this. It was huge,
It's
and
over. Yeah,
yeah, and I ate it, and now beef ribs are my favorite kind of rib. I think they're delicious. But you just sit there,
same.
and it's like a food coma. Like it feels like you're being hugged from the inside. There's something about barbecue that it's just God. And I don't. I would imagine, like you said, there's a lot of every culture has it. So I know that. See, I'm swallowing. I can taste it as I'm talking about it. I imagine other cultures have it, but like this is really sort of like the only American food. Really, everything else, I guess, burgers. But I mean, it's a burger's a burger. Like this is like the homegrown American food.
Yeah, yeah. So I've talked about that a little bit, and whenever I say it, I always get pushback from people like, "Oh, well, there's barbecue in every culture." So what I mean when I say that American style barbecue is the only really uniquely American style of cooking, I mean the specific way that it's done.
Right.
So yeah, cooking with fire is present in every single culture, and it's universal in that sense. But the way that we do American barbecue, where you build a wood fire and you use indirect heat to cook something for 12, 14, 16 hours, to number one, achieve that kind of flavor, and Number two, achieve tenderness, especially like the kind of barbecue they do in Austin where they have, offset smokers in a lot of places. That's something you don't find anywhere else. So I have people
Right.
contacting me from Europe all the time. They're like, hey, I bought a smoker. I've been making food at my house. This is the greatest thing ever. I want to open a restaurant, because people just really like it, but you don't find it in other places. You find meat in other places. You find things that are grilled, and that's it's a big deal everywhere. But American style smoked barbecue is something that should be treasured. Like I kind of view it like the cooking version of jazz or something, where it's from America, but it can be appreciated by everybody. And
Right.
just like jazz, you can put your own spin on it, and you have the framework. Like the jazz musician knows all the scales, but then once you learn the scales, you can play with it and make music. Otherwise, it's just noise. So once you learn the basics of barbecue, you can make it your own. Like you can go Southwest with the flavors, or
Right.
you could go Middle Eastern with the flavors, or you could make Korean style American barbecue.
Right. Okay. So we're gonna get to that 'cause I have a bunch of questions. I want to talk to you about barbecue first, and then I'm interested in your story as well. But
Sure.
you kind of just brought it up, and I know, and it's funny that you said you get pushback. That's what the internet's made for. Everyone's gonna have a problem with something. But
Yeah.
um, what is the difference? Actually, no. I actually want to ask another question first. You just mentioned jazz, which I like that analogy. Has barbecue changed in the last 100 or something years? I know there's always different people will add and do different things, but is the barbecue we're eating today pretty similar to the barbecue we would have been having in like 1900, 1800?
Probably not. So
Okay.
it's my understanding, at least, that people have been cooking meat forever. But the American style of barbecue developed in places like Texas. So two things kind of came together. There was the development of boxed beef, so you could get individual cuts instead of you just order a side of beef. And so some cuts would sell out right away, like filet mignon gone, ribeyes gone, and they were left with a few cuts that people didn't want, like brisket, this horrible, tough, cut of meat that
Oh, I didn't know that.
really doesn't
Okay.
lend itself to anything. What's that?
I didn't know that. I didn't know it was a bad cut of meat. It's my favorite thing to eat.
Yeah, yeah. So it's just this horrible, terrible, awful cut of meat that is only good for grinding up into burgers. And so you had people who had, these butcher shops, and they had briskets and stuff left over. And so they were thinking, well, what can we do with these? And then so they, put them on a smoker out back. And at the same time, because of like the Texas oil boom, there were a bunch of oil field workers who worked with welding pipes together and stuff. And the offset smoker was invented, where you basically have two pipes, right? And you put a stack on it, and you build a fire on the offset firebox, and then you fill you fill the cook chamber with meat, and you wait, 12 hours plus, and then you get barbecue. So those two things kind of came together to make barbecue a thing, the way we know it, at least. And I don't know if this is true. I heard that it was like a Jewish butcher shop in Texas that first started doing like the slow smoked briskets and stuff. And it's grown from there just because people like it. It just resonates with people.
Well, I'll let the Jews take credit for that. I don't mind that. They say we control the media. I don't know about that, but barbecue I'll take the credit for. Um, so you kind of just
I've done some kosher barbecue.
you've done some what?
Kosher barbecue.
Oh, well, I mean, brisket is actually my favorite
Yeah.
thing that my mom makes. It's a different style. She cooks it in the oven with like a onion style sauce. It's my favorite thing that she
Right.
makes. But you kind of just touched on it. I would love to know, and this is what I was talking about when people get angry,
Yeah.
is what the difference is between barbecue, grill, and smoke. Because like if I just have a grill on the porch and I say I'm having a barbecue today, you're like, you're not having a barbecue. It's not a barbecue. So like I would love to
Right.
know like the difference between the three.
Sure. Sure. So basically, grilling is anything over direct heat, high temperature. So
Okay.
you would grill asparagus, you would grill a steak, you would grill a burger. But barbecue is the low and slow process
Okay.
of cooking with a fire. So In grilling, you want to cook things. So say we're cooking a steak, right? We want to cook it to say medium rare, because if we go past that, then it gets dry and tough and chewy, and it's no longer good.
Right.
Also, we're trying to do it at high heat because we want to get a sear on the outside to build flavor, because of something called the Myred reaction. So the Myred reaction is basically the browning that happens. So
that's my favorite reaction. I like that reaction.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a chemical reaction that most people don't know about, but everybody likes.
Yeah.
So it's when you have a perfectly seared steak and it's kind of got that brown crust on it, and you take a bite and it tastes so good. That's the Myred reaction.
And that's grilling.
Barbecue. Yeah. Okay. So with barbecue, you can also get the Myred reaction, but it takes a lot longer because you're cooking at a lower temperature. So when you have, a brisket that comes out looking almost black, you still have the Myred reaction taking place. It just took, 16 hours to get there.
Got it.
But barbecue is the low and slow process of cooking with indirect heat. So you don't put it directly over the fire. You use the convection through the smoker to do the cooking. And what you do there is you don't cook it to medium rare. You actually cook it so far past well done that it loops back around to being tender again. And so
okay,
that's really what happens. So you start breaking down things like collagen. So like collagen that keeps your face taut when you're young.
Right.
It starts to break down when you get old and your face starts to sag. So you hydrolyze, it's a chemical term for breaking down the collagen, and it turns into gelatin. And so you might think that sounds disgusting, meat jello, but when you have it in brisket and it kind of coats the inside of your mouth and makes everything feel moist, you're like, this meat jello is a good thing. And then smoking is just applying smoke flavor to anything. So you can smoke cheese, you could smoke a steak before you sear it, you could, and you're smoking when you're barbecuing, but it's kind of a different thing than the two big categories of high heat, short time, and low heat, long time.
Okay, so it's sort of like all rectangles are squares, but not all squares are rectangles. All barbecue is smoked, but not all smoking is barbecue.
Correct.
Okay, all right. I'm an idiot. I don't know any of the. I love. It's weird. It's something about a guy when you turn 30. All my not all of them, but a good amount of my guy friends in LA just had smokers in their house in their backyard. And it's amazing for me because I don't have to deal with it. But you brought something up that was it's just such a long process to make good barbecue, and you I wouldn't want to do it because my friends post pictures. They're up at 4 a.m. checking something. I don't know exactly what they're checking, but they're doing something, and that doesn't sound like fun. But you, and you with your I guess it is a restaurant. With the food you were serving, you had to, drive there with the smoker. Were you doing it at home and then putting it back in, or were you getting there like 12, 14 hours before?
Oh, okay. So I have cooked on location before, but generally the guys who are doing barbecue pop-ups in LA, they're a handful, or I guess who were doing barbecue pop-ups in LA.
Right.
Some of them cook at home, but you can get shut down by the health department at any point. Like they show up, boom, it's game over.
Right.
But what you do is you get certified as a food handler, and then you work out of a certified kitchen. So I think there's a place that a lot of people use I think it's called Crafted Kitchen LA or something like that. Or you can just strike a deal with a restaurant and say, hey, guess what? This bagel shop, you guys aren't going to be using your kitchen, from noon until, tomorrow morning at 3 a.m. Can I use your kitchen and kind of be under your health department umbrella to trim the briskets and everything else, put it on the smoker. Or you can just, you can use a commissary kitchen. But yeah, you would cook it beforehand and then drive it to the event and then put everything back on the smoker because that's how you maintain its temperature. And also it's a visual draw. And then also it's, an olfactory draw. So people will smell it and see it and they think, what's going on over there? And they look and then they come over and they smell it more and they're like, okay, I think I want to get something here. And then they'll look at the menu and place an order.
Right. So something, and I know I just brought up Jews, and I'm going to get some jokes about this, but it's just a question I have. I've noticed that barbecue tends to be a little bit on the expensive side when you eat out.
Yeah.
Is that because of the quality of the meat? Why do you think it's one of the more expensive? Because it feels like sort of like relaxed, kind of like it should be. In my head, I'm like, this should be cheaper, but like it's definitely like there's time and there's the quality of the meats. What causes the price to be a little bit higher?
Yeah. So two things. Number one is barbecue used to be a lot more inexpensive just because they were using all the cuts that nobody wanted. So you could go to the grocery store and get a brisket for 99 cents a pound,
Wow.
right? Yeah. But I mean, if you go to Franklin Barbecue, I think you're paying $26 a pound, something like that.
Wow.
So the first thing is because of the popularity of barbecue now and how fast it's growing, the price of those cuts has now increased. So when I was doing pop-ups in LA, briskets were costing me $6 to $7 a pound.
Okay.
So that's the first thing. Second thing is um, it's just the process makes it more expensive. So you trim the brisket and you cook the brisket, and in the trimming and cooking, you lose 45% of the weight. So if you
Oh.
paid, $7 a pound for a brisket, it's going to be your cost $14 a pound by the time it's actually making it to the customer. Plus, you have to factor in the cost of wood and then the cost of labor because somebody's going to have to baby that thing for 16 hours. And it can't be somebody who's just going to flip a switch. It's got to be somebody who has enough skill to do it properly. So that it's not something like flipping burgers. It's like, okay, this long on this side, you flip it over, that long on the other side, it's done. And actually requires more skill insofar as you have to look at the meat you're cooking, evaluate it, say, okay, yeah, we're going to have to dial up the temperature. This fat's not rendering quite the way I want it, right? But you're going to have somebody who's going to be there for 16 hours to do it. So those are all things that factor into making it more expensive.
Okay. And how long do you think it took you, or how long do you think it takes to really get, not that you're an expert. Well, you might be an expert, but you don't. I'm not talking about like expert level. But how long do you think it takes to really get uh, like a satisfactory level of knowing how to do that?
I'll give you two answers on this one. The first one is no time at all, just because it's so much fun when you get into it that you're going to be happy. Even if the food is terrible, you're going to think it's great. At least that's the way it happened for me. So the first barbecue I was making was awful. It was really, really bad, but I enjoyed the crap out of it. Like I loved the whole process. You go check on the fire, you look at the fire, you blow on the fire, make sure it's doing okay. I just loved it. But actually making decent food that you'd be happy to serve to your friends and family, I would say you probably have to spend 30 hours of actually cooking, but
Okay.
30 hours of paying attention. So, you're making notes, you write down what you did for each cook. You're actively involved, and then you could pick it up to be pretty decent in 30 hours or so.
Okay. How long did it take you to figure out, like, for the brisket, like the rub, like, or if I think you do. Do you use a rub, and B, like with either rub or sauce? How long does it, like, how many like variations do you go through?
Oh, okay. So yeah, this is kind of an interesting one. I went through, I don't know, 100 variations of brisket
Wow.
probably. So for me, I'm kind of scientifically minded, so I want to change only one thing at a time. So I would go salt and pepper, and then I would add garlic. And if I liked it, okay, keep it in. Now add onion. Do I like it? Okay, keep it in. Now let's try some sugar. Nope, didn't like it. Take it back out. And so I would do that, and then I found a rub that I liked, but then I reverted all the way back to just using salt and pepper. Okay, and the reason
Okay.
was this: because if you use too many things in the rub, it might taste good, but you cover so much of the surface area of the meat that the smoke doesn't really penetrate it anymore, and you cover up the flavor of the
Oh,
smoke, which is the whole reason that I was doing barbecue in the first place.
that's interesting. Okay. So we just sort of talked about rub and sauces.
Hmm.
Can you break down in a very, like, you don't have to, not like a huge one, but I know, like, there's Texas, there's Carolina,
Hmm.
there's a few different styles. Can you break them down, and then for you, and obviously I'm not trying to get you in trouble, but which one is your personal favorite, and which one is maybe your not favorite?
Sure. Yeah. So of the styles of barbecue, with which I'm familiar, there's like Texas style barbecue, which is very beef centric. So it's, brisket and beef ribs. Those are big there. But they also make pork ribs and other cuts. But beef is king, and they use salt and pepper only to season. Now, the exact ratio, how much salt and pepper can vary. And some places might add, some garlic powder, or they might add onion powder, or they might, cover the brisket in mustard before they put the dry rub on. But it's salt and pepper mostly. Then if you move up to Kansas City, they do brisket, but they do a lot of ribs and pork, and they're known for their sauce. So most of the sauces that you're familiar with, if you go to the grocery store, like KC Masterpiece, so Kansas City KC Masterpiece, it's a sweet, brown, sticky barbecue sauce. Like Sweet Baby Ray's would be that style of sauce. And they will make the ribs and they'll glaze it in sauce, and it's just a different style of barbecue there. If you move to Memphis, they will do ribs, but they'll just use a dry rub, no sauce on it at all. And so their dry rubs are going to be a lot more elaborate because they don't have the extra step of putting sauce on to get more flavor. And then finally, in the Carolinas, you have a tradition of doing whole, and then use that to flavor and cook the meat.
I'm sorry, you broke up for 1 second. What do they use to flavor and cook the meat?
So in the Carolinas, what they do is they'll take wood, they'll start a fire, and when it burns down to coals, they'll kind of shovel that under a grate where they have a whole hog, and that cooks and flavors the meat when they do it. And there they have different kinds of sauces than you would find in, say, places like Kansas City. There's one sauce where it's basically vinegar and chili flakes, and it really cuts through the fattiness of the pork. They have some tomato-based sauces that are more similar to the Kansas City sauces. And then they have my personal favorite sauce for pork. It's a Carolina-style mustard sauce.
Yeah.
And so it's a barbecue sauce, but it's mustard-based. And it's tangy, it's rich, and there's some sweetness to it. For me, it's the perfect complement to a fatty piece of pork.
Okay. And I have a question about that, but so which one, if you had to choose one, which one's your favorite and which one is your least favorite, maybe?
Oh, my favorite, I think, would be Texas style barbecue, just because it's simple, but if you do everything perfectly, it's the best. It's like going to a great steakhouse. They season it with salt and pepper, but they sear it perfectly and it's cooked to the perfect level of doneness. It's going to be great. You don't need anything else. So Texas style would be my favorite because the focus there is on executing everything perfectly. Great quality meat, great quality smoke, great tenderness, all that stuff is what I am most captivated by. Least favorite? I don't think I have a least favorite.
Okay.
It's actually, I'll catch some hate for this, but I think it's probably pulled pork. Not pulled pork, whole hog, like pulled pork. So where they cook the whole hog, then they pull all the meat out and they chop it all up.
Okay.
So I think the reason I don't like it as much is because you don't get as much smoke flavor and you don't get variation from one bite to the next.
Okay, and that's because I just drove back and forth to Florida a couple months ago, and I was going to stop. Unfortunately, I'm on a diet, so I chose not to. But I did a lot of research because it's my favorite thing about traveling is stopping to eat. And I when I was going through I was going to stop in North or South Carolina, and I found a place in South Carolina. I think I'll stop next time. But I noticed that it was pulled pork, and it might not be as good. Like pulled pork to me, everyone loves it, and it's not bad. But at least when I grew up around here, they put so much sauce on it that it's sort of like a barbecue sloppy Joe. And for me, I didn't like it. A lot of people do like it. I am very interested in trying that mustard sauce. I love mustard, and I like pork. Okay. Oh, that'd be great. So you were bringing up smoke. Obviously, I know you're going to say it does matter, but how much does the wood really influence the taste over the meat when you're smoking or barbecuing?
Yeah. Okay, that's a good question. So More important than the specific kind of wood, if you're using hickory or if you're using oak or cherry or apple or peach or maple or whatever, more important than what kind of wood you use is how you burn the fire. So if you have a fire where the wood is kind of smoldering, then you're going to get this kind of bitter, acrid, gross taste on the outside of the barbecue. And so it will taste good for the first bite, and then the more you eat of it, like kind of the worse you'll feel. And then, an hour later, you're going to burp up, the smoky, gross stuff. And the reason that you get a different flavor when it's smoldering is because the temperature at which the wood burns is going to determine the compounds that it produces. So if you are kind of choking off a fire, you don't give it enough oxygen, you're going to have a big cloud of white smoke. And if you're smoking meat, it's natural to assume that if some smoke is good, more smoke is better. But really kind of the opposite is true. You want to see almost just clear heat waves coming out of your smokestack, because when the wood is burning with lots of oxygen, it's burning really hot. It creates small molecules that are they're going to be see-through, but those are the most flavorful molecules. So if you're burning a really healthy fire, you're going to be surrounding that meat with really flavorful smoke that's going to pay off in the end after you have, the long cook. And a lot of people get that wrong. That's the biggest mistake in barbecue, is thinking that you want a bunch of white smoke.
Okay, that's didn't expect you here. I didn't know you could have clear smoke. That's awesome. So on my trip, or in my planning to go south, I noticed something that I had never seen before. These barbecue buffets.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if you've seen them or been to them,
Mm-mm.
but okay, they were very cheap. They were like 12, $15 a visit. And I love buffets, but sometimes buffets get bad raps because of the quality of the food. Have you experienced anything with barbecue buffets, or you haven't tried them yet?
No, I don't think I've ever been to a barbecue buffet. But what they're probably doing is they're probably doing a lot of pulled pork, because it's cheap. So you get a pork butt, and you can get those for $1 something a pound, and it goes a long way to feeding a lot of people. So one pork butt is kind of the I don't want to call it the dirty secret of the barbecue world, but on a menu you might have brisket $24 a pound, and then it'll be pulled pork $18 a pound, and you think, oh man, that's the deal. Definitely get some of that pork, but the money that they're spending on it is going to be way, 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 way less than for brisket. So
Okay.
yeah, the profit margin on that is going to be a lot bigger. And so I would guess that for those buffets, they're doing things like that. Well, they'll have some ribs and some brisket, but they'll have a lot of pork. And so the ribs will go away, and then they'll refill them, and the brisket will go away and they'll refill them. But always there will be pork there. So I would imagine that's why it's cheaper.
Okay. And then obviously we've talked about Franklin and Austin, and there are other very well known barbecue restaurants. But let's just say someone was taking a trip, and they don't, either aren't near any of the famous ones, or they don't want to wait in line. Because I went to one when I went to Austin. I went to one in a gas station,
Yeah.
and it was awesome. For me, I don't know what it was compared to. I'm sure Franklin could be better. It was like a chain around Austin. I don't remember the name, but
Mm.
if you were looking, if you for me, like if you're gonna Google and look up restaurant barbecue places, what do you look for when you're looking at a barbecue place that tells you if it's gonna be good or not?
Mm. I'll look at the pictures.
Okay, yeah, me too. I love pictures.
Yeah. So number one, it'll give you a sense of the quality of the food. So if they take pains to prepare good-looking plates, well, the food's probably going to be pretty good. The second thing I look for is the bark that's on the outside of the barbecue. So the bark is basically the term that barbecuers use to talk about like the combination of fat and salt and rub and smoke that's on the outside surface. So like a brisket kind of looks like a meteorite. That's actually a really good thing. And so I'll look for that. So if they're producing really good bark on the outside of their barbecue, chances are it's going to be really tasty. And then the third thing that I would look for would be an offset smoker. If they have an offset smoker, then they have the tool to make the best tasting barbecue in the world. It's just a question of whether or not they're executing it.
What might they have if they don't have an offset smoker? What might they have? Like what would be a bad thing?
It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's easy to make food that's not very good with them. So an industrial style cabinet smoker. So with those, it's basically an oven, but they use wood chips or something like that to add smoke flavor to the cooking process. So things like a Southern Pride smoker, those are pretty common. It can be done really well, but it can also be done very poorly.
Okay. And I would like to get your opinion on this. Like I said, I do nothing but think about food now, especially that I'm on a diet. When I'm looking for a barbecue place, and by the way, we're about to get to you, one of your brisket was out of this world. Everything was out of this world. But my favorite thing about barbecue is
Mhm.
potato salad. I
Yeah.
love. There's nothing like brisket and potato salad on the same fork for me because it gets hot and juicy, and then the cold of the. Oh my god, it's like it's a sexual experience. It's better than sex for me sometimes. Um, but when I'm looking for a barbecue place, if I find a couple that I like, I need them to have mac and cheese and I need them to have potato salad. What are your go-to sides for barbecue?
I love macaroni and cheese,
Oh
but the
yeah.
way I make macaroni and cheese is a little different than most people do it. But for me, I'd say macaroni and cheese, potato salad, and probably the side that I've had with barbecue that I enjoyed the most was jalapeno cheese grits.
Ooh, I
It
haven't
was
had those.
it was incredible. I've never even made them because I've been so afraid that I will taste it and it won't be as good as I had it in my head. Because my memory of it, like my mouth is watering now thinking about it. My memory of it was it just being this kind of creamy, spicy, cheesy mix of amazing.
Oh,
You
that's
know?
a good. I would never get that, but that's a good option. That now I'm gonna have to try it.
Yeah.
And what is your mac and cheese? Because I like the baked with like the crust on top mac and cheese. I don't like the soupy wet mac and cheese. I'll eat it because I'll eat anything. But it's my favorite's the baked one.
Sure, sure. So what I like to do with mac and cheese is first I'll take the cheese and I use Gruyere cheese and Parmesan cheese. And the real Parmesan is definitely better than like the I don't know, generic Parmesan cheese. You want the one that says Parmigiano Reggiano, right? That's the one, right? So what I do is I take those and I put those on the smoker and cold smoke the cheeses. So I
Oh,
start to build in that smoke flavor there. So I'll usually what I'll do is to smoke the cheese at the end of a cook, and I have just a bed of coals in the firebox. I'll put on one log and then kind of close things down so it's not very hot at all. It's under 100 degrees. I put the cheese on until it starts to get that kind of browned outside surface. Tells me got smoke flavor on there, and it's not like liquid smoke or something artificial that I'm adding. It's just real smoke that I put on the cheese. So that's step one. Then I wrap that in saran wrap, put it in the fridge because I want it to retain all that smoke flavor. Next thing I do is I'll get a pan and put in like a quart of heavy cream. And so I'll heat it in the pan until it reduces down and it kind of turns a little bit yellow and you've gotten rid of a lot of the water that's present in it. And then I will take those cheeses and I'll grate in like 8 ounces of Gruyere and a couple ounces of Parmesan. And then I'll take my pasta and I'll add a couple teaspoons of pasta water. So it'll kind of make a sauce. And then I'll pour in the pasta, then mix it all together. And you see like these strings of cheese kind of pulling apart, like when you lift up the spoon. And then what you can do, so I like it that way. Put some herbs on top to kind of offset some of the heaviness, but it's so creamy and so rich and you taste real cheese in it. So good. I really like that. Now, if you wanted to do baked mac and cheese, what I would do for me, I'd put it in like a hotel pan. I'd just kind of pour in the mac and cheese. Then I'd take the breadcrumbs and then layer them on top, and then a fresh layer of cheese on top of that, and then put it in the smoker. And you get the smoke flavor a little bit again on the top, and then you get that crust. So if you want creamy, gooey mac and cheese and crust and smoke flavor all built into one, that's how I do it.
God, this is the best conversation I've ever had. I'm so hungry right now. That sounds amazing. So,
Good.
getting to you, we met, I guess maybe 2017, 2018, if I'm not mistaken, you were a teacher at that time, correct?
Yeah. So yeah, my life has taken a lot of different twists and turns. You know, yeah, I was working as a school teacher then, which I'd never intended to. Like I was born into an Amish family, and
Oh,
so
wow.
at that point in my life, I was only ever expecting to go to eighth grade. And then you're done.
Really?
Um,
I didn't know that.
yeah. So born into an Amish family, my parents decided that they were going to leave the Amish when I was just at the beginning of elementary school, and then my parents subsequently got a divorce. I moved to Kentucky with my mom, and started going to school there, and just really loved science. I was a terrible student because I just didn't do any of my work because I thought it was stupid. But I loved science, and so I was, always watching the Discovery Channel or the History Channel or National Geographic or Animal Planet. I was just super into science. Then ended up going to college, got a degree in biochemistry, and I was going to go to medical school. And was kind of, gearing up to do that. And I realized that I didn't really want to do it anymore, because even in college, I'd be in an organic chemistry class and I just didn't care. Like I would be there, but I'm not really paying attention, not really listening. I'm not doing any of the homework. I just don't care. It didn't capture my interest. I felt kind of like I was playing a game with a prize at the end that wasn't something I even wanted. So I was
Right.
like, well, why am I doing this? Why would I do this for 4 more years in medical school? I don't think I want to do. I'm no longer passionate about this.
That's probably the best decision you ever made.
Probably. So the summer after I graduated, I was doing some organic chemistry research with one of my professors. Finished that. Took everything out of my dorm room, put it in my car, and drove out to LA. And at that point, I didn't really know exactly what I was going to do. I enrolled in a master's program. I was going to get a master's in divinity. Started, which was interesting, but anyway, it's not super important. But then I also got a job teaching. So I was teaching at a private school in Woodland Hills, and I learned a lot from that, and it was an interesting experience. I don't know if you want me to go into what teaching was like, but I kind of apply that now to like the YouTube videos and stuff that I do.
Right. So, I want to be conscious of your time, so we'll talk about teaching another time. But at what point did either A, barbecue just as a passion start, and B, when did you then decide to move that beyond just something for your friends to selling it?
Yeah. Yeah. So while I was teaching, I was working a lot. So I would teach, my first biology class at, 8 in the morning. And then I would finish at the school at like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night.
Oh God.
Because they had students from other schools come in for tutoring if they needed help at it. I had to be there for the tutoring, and, you know, they were paying, I didn't know how much they were paying at the time, but they were paying a lot of money for the tutoring. And so they expected, they send their kid here for this tutoring, this kid's going to get an A. And so you couldn't really phone it in. You had to be totally engaged, because, if you're trying to teach a 13-year-old, like, adults will be polite and they'll like nod along and pretend like you're doing a good job. 13-year-olds aren't polite. They're like, oh, this is so boring. When am I ever going to use this? This is so stupid. I don't understand it at all. Right. So if you're not doing a good job, right away.
Right.
And, you got to be 100% engaged with that student, making sure that they understand every step of the process. And for me, I'm not a shy person, but I'm a total introvert. So kind of emotionally, it was just kind of draining for me to have to interact with people all day long, and not just, oh, hey, how are you? But really, you got to get them on board, get them wanting to do well, get them excited, motivate them, and then teach them in a way that they understand. And so I needed something to give me a hobby or some kind of escape from what I was doing there, because I was also going to school full time, and I was burning the candle at both ends, and I needed something to do. And so they had a sale. Osh Orchard Supply Hardware that they had
Yeah.
in there?
Mm-hmm.
They had a sale at Osh, and there was what I thought was the Rolls Royce of smokers. It was a combination smoker, charcoal grill, gas grill, and I thought, this is going to serve all my needs forever. This is the pinnacle. There can be nothing better than this. And they paid a sales tax today. It's President's Day, I think it was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I went and picked up that smoker. Had to have a friend strap it to the top of his SUV because I didn't have a truck. Took it home and started barbecuing. And so I think the first thing I ever smoked was pizza, which was
Uh,
terrible. But I had fun doing it. Just like I said, the food I was making was awful, but I loved it. So I started doing that, and just every weekend, every chance I got, I was out there managing the fire, trying to cook meat. I tried to smoke a tri-tip like a brisket. That failed, but it was just a blast doing it. And I was telling my wife one day about videos I was watching on YouTube, because for somebody with a science background and somebody who loves barbecue, I was watching these videos kind of with a scientific eye. And so sometimes people would say things that were scientifically wrong. And I'd tell my wife about it. It's like, oh, yeah, the ashes, they're not acidic. They're actually basic. And then we got the idea, you know what? I'll make a YouTube video about this.
right.
And I thought nobody would watch it. And my wife thought nobody would watch it. But I thought I'll have fun doing it. So I started making some YouTube videos on the weekends when I had time. And at that point, I was cooking way more food than my wife and I could eat together. So I started giving it to friends, and then I started getting requests to do events. So I had this little bitty smoker, max one brisket. And a brisket is really too big for that smoker. And people were asking me, hey, you can cook for 350, right? No, not a chance. And so what I did is I took all the money I had saved as a teacher, like every bit of it, and bought a custom offset smoker on a trailer. And I was like, I really hope this pays off.
Is that the one that I saw you with you?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that was like my life savings and still my pride and joy. But so I bought that, did my first event. It was a wedding for like 350 people, and kind of jumped in with both feet, so that the last year while I was teaching, I would leave work and go cook all night long, do an event on Saturday night, go back, repeat the process, cook all night long, and do an event on Sunday, go home, catch a couple hours of sleep before I went to work on Monday. So that was it was a difficult time, because for the weekend, the only sleep I would get is, I'd be sitting in a chair next to the firebox, and when the fire's dying down, I would start to get cold and wake up and like, oh, put a log on the firebox. Just grab a couple hours here or there. But it made it so that when I quit teaching, I had the catering business already going. And so, I didn't, have to get kicked out of my apartment or something like that.
Right. And okay, that's awesome. And when did you quit teaching?
I think I quit teaching. I think it might have been 2017 or 2018.
Okay, so it's probably right around the time we met that you were. I think
Yeah.
you were still a teacher, so maybe that was your last year or something.
Yeah.
Were you scared at all, or did you know that you had something good?
Well, I was a little bit anxious about it, but I kind of viewed it, and this might sound stupid, but I viewed it in this way. I thought it's much better to try and then fail than to think, you know what, I really wish I would have tried that, because I didn't want to be teaching in 20 years and think to myself, I could have had an out here where I could be doing something I'm passionate about, and, being able to feed people and see them be happy because they're eating something that they've never tried before and they love it. Because to me, the regret of trying and failing was way easier to deal with than the regret of never having tried.
Right, and then even if you fail, you still know how to cook that food, and you could cook it while you're working. That's awesome. So you mentioned the YouTube, and I think you had it when I first met you, and then I was just playing around on Instagram one day, and I saw your profile, clicked on it, went on the YouTube, and I was like, dang, like Jeremy has a lot of people watching his stuff. And I watched your video about cooking the perfect steak, or the last dinner steak, I think you called the video.
Last meal steak.
Last meal steak.
Yeah.
And I watch a lot of cooking videos, and what I thought about your videos was not that it was too scientific, but like I a lot of times with cooking videos, they'll just be like, just do this, and then I'm like, what is it supposed to look like? How do I know it's done? And you kept, when you were talking about the Myred effect, is that the term you used earlier?
Myred reaction.
You kept showing the steak throughout the process. You're like, this is like on the way, but this isn't what we want yet. And like as someone who has learned to cook a lot on YouTube, it was helpful. I really enjoyed your videos. So
Oh, thank
you said you weren't sure when you filmed that first one that it was gonna do anything. Did that one go viral, or like did it take a couple years? How did YouTube happen?
Yeah, so YouTube was a weird thing. So when I started my YouTube channel, one of my students, I think he was 11, uh, said, "Mr. Yoder, so I heard you started a YouTube channel." And I said, "Yeah, I did." And he's like, "Don't worry, I'll teach you everything I know." And, he had 3 subscribers at the time, and I was like, "Well, thanks, Dylan. I appreciate that." But what I essentially did was I just thought about I'm going to make videos that I would want to watch. And it wasn't any more complicated than that. I'm sure like a marketing guru would say, "Oh, you moron, why did you do it this way? You could have, had a lot more success from the beginning." But I just thought, I'm going to make videos that I would want to watch. And so I started doing videos, and a few of the videos got a few 100,000 views. And so I had not very many subscribers. But I thought, okay, well, it looks at least like I can make content that people want to watch. So I'll just keep doing it when I have time. And so I was doing it while I was teaching. Then when I was doing the barbecue business full time, I would try to do it, but then it was difficult to film because every weekend it was filled with a barbecue event. And my wife was doing all the filming, and she would be working during the week. And then on the weekends, we got a barbecue event, so it just wouldn't work out. But then really the pandemic, I don't want to say it was the best thing that ever happened to me, but in a way, it cleared off all the stuff that I didn't need to be focusing on. And so then I started making YouTube videos, in earnest, and they started to do well. And then subscribers started to grow, past 100,000. Now we passed 200,000, and some of the videos really seem to connect with people. And so I don't know exactly why. I just know that I'm going to keep making videos that I would want to watch, and that's my philosophy on it.
And are you now? I don't know if you want to say what state you're living in or not. But I think you might have. But I was just so focused on the food talk. But are you continuing with the catering business, or is now just YouTube?
Oh, so I do the YouTube stuff, and then getting things geared up for catering here. It's just a matter of when I think there'll be big enough gatherings
Right.
to make it worthwhile. So if it's a gathering, say 30 people, and I'm still going to have to, if I'm cooking one brisket or if I'm cooking 25 briskets, it's the same amount of time from me. So if it's 30 people, I would make like $1 an hour, doing that event. But the bigger the group, the more profitable it is. And things are kind of starting to open up here in terms of having bigger gatherings. And when that happens, then yeah, absolutely. I want to start, feeding people, because when you get to introduce somebody to real barbecue, cook with a real fire, that never gets old for me. Cooking briskets, I still enjoy that process, but there's a freshness every time you see somebody get to try barbecue for the first time. They're like, "Oh, wow, this is great." And I kind of miss that. So doing videos, I really enjoy, but if I'm the only one eating it, it's not nearly as fun as being able to share it with people. And so I definitely want to get back into being able to do events, just because, I don't know, it's something you can't replace. I think it's just built into people to want to have meals with other people.
Okay. Well, and I'll talk about that in a second. But while we're on this topic, what if someone listening or watching was interested in hiring you for an event or what, or a festival, whatever? What states do you work in, and how would they reach out to you?
Oh, okay. So right now I'm in Louisville, Kentucky, and so you could reach out to me on Instagram, and maybe we can put this in the description. But I have an email that you can contact. It's an @MadScientistBarbecue email if you're interested in doing those kinds of events. But yeah, so just Kentucky would be right now, but presumably also I have to figure out what the regulations are. But Louisville, Kentucky is really close to Indiana, so probably southern Indiana as well.
Okay, and it's your Instagram is Mad Scientist Barbecue, I believe, right?
Yep, Mad Scientist BBQ.
Okay, and I'll have you message me the email address, and I will put it in the description. Um, but it's funny that you said sharing it with people, because after I left that night, I got some food, and then you were very nice and you gave me a big to go plate. And I'm usually like a hoarder when it comes to food, but it was just A, it was so much, and but B, there's something very communal about barbecue. It's just
Yeah.
fun. And I called up my buddy Eric, and it's in when I was messaging you to be on this, I saw that the story is somehow still in there, and I literally, I'll see if I can post it on my Instagram, but I took it was like the biggest, heaviest box I've ever had, and a big tin foil, like football sized thing of potato salad. And I went to Ralph's in Studio City at like
Mhm.
1 in the morning. And my buddy Eric and I sat down at one of the tables outside of that 24-hour Ralph's, and we just devoured your food. So it was, trust me, if you are anywhere near Louisville, Kentucky, or Southern Indiana, it's definitely worth it. I have two questions left. The first one is, have you thought about opening up a brick and mortar, or do you like doing the catering?
Yeah. So I've thought about opening up a brick and mortar restaurant a lot, actually, and I always come back to the same conclusion, and that's restaurants are great, but they can also be a really big headache, because no matter how many customers come through the door, you still have to pay your staff, you still have to pay your rent, you still have to pay your food costs. Um, there's that. Then you have to deal with all the people who are going to be working in the restaurant. So if Bobby has a blow up at home and can't come in, guess what? You have to figure out how to make it work no matter what. And so there are just so many headaches doing it that way. And with the catering thing, it's okay. Do I want to do this event? Yep, sure do. And sign up and get everything ready. And when you're not doing an event, you're not having to pay an ongoing cost all the time. So the short version is, I think I would love to have a restaurant, but I wouldn't love to have all the headaches that go with it.
Okay, that makes sense. And especially, I mean, with COVID, um, the nice thing about barbecue is you could do outdoor events. You don't have to be
Mhm.
indoors anywhere. And then it's the same thing. A lot of people have talked to me, and I was even gonna go look at one, and I decided not to. A lot of people have told me, "Oh, you should open up a podcast recording studio," and I've thought about it, but I I like the idea of being a little bit more mobile and not being stuck in one location and only being able to do it for people in Boston. I'd like to be able to do it for people everywhere. So the catering allows you to move around, and yeah, you're right. It'd probably be a lot cheaper. So that makes total sense. So my final question for you is, if someone was going to get into barbecue, obviously watch Mad Scientist Barbecue on YouTube.
Right.
That's your first step. But for someone who is going to buy a smoker, do you have maybe like a quote unquote relatively lower priced or economically priced, that's a word, smoker, versus if they love it and maybe they don't need to make 30 of them, but they want to go like super high end? Like, what's like I guess I'll put it, a Toyota smoker versus a BMW smoker.
Sure. Okay. So if you're thinking about getting into barbecue, but you aren't 100% sure exactly that you want to do it every weekend, or you're not, fully committed, but you would still like to be able to make really, really good food, I would suggest getting a Weber Smoky Mountain. Now, there are a lot of options, a lot of great smokers out there, but a Weber Smoky Mountain is great because, number one, it's inexpensive. Number two, it doesn't have a huge footprint. It's not a humongous smoker. Number three is you don't have to babysit it the same way you would an offset smoker, which you can't really leave. Weber Smoky Mountain, you can have a digital probe in there, and you could be in the living room watching TV, and you say, "Oh, the temperature's still good," and you can set it for hours at a time just to operate by itself. And then ultimately, the real reason that it's worth getting is because it makes really good food at the end, and you're looking to spend probably around $250, $300 for one of those. So
Okay.
it's not nothing, but it's a far cry from spending 10 grand on a custom trailer smoker.
Wow, is that how much they cost?
A lot of them cost more than that. But if you're looking for, so that would be like the Toyota Corolla of smokers. If you're looking for like the BMW of smokers, there are a number of good smokers out there. Like there's a company called Yoder Smokers, no affiliation with them. They
Okay.
make something that I would equate to like a BMW. It's very good. They have both offset smokers, which require you to be there the whole time, and then pellet smokers, which are very hands off. You set the temperature and you walk away. And so for somebody who wants something a little nicer, they could go with one of those. And then I'll throw this in, the Rolls Royce of smokers would be getting your own custom smoker made. Say, I want this kind of smoker, and I want, my name right here, and I want this logo here. And like for me, with my offset smoker, it was made by Fat Stack. The handle to the firebox has like the model of the Atom, and their Erlenmeyer flasks as the doorstops, stuff like that. And you can kind of customize to your heart's content. So I would say those are kind of like the three levels of smokers you might want to get. But for somebody just getting into it, a Weber Smoky Mountain is cheap, a good way to find out if you like it. And if you want to spend more money, you can get something like a Yoder smoker. And then if you're like, I love this, I'm going to, treat this like my baby, you could get something custom.
That is, I would love to learn one day, but more than that, more than cooking, I like eating. So hopefully
Yep.
when this opens up, I'll come down to Kentucky and I'll come hungry because last time I was at a comedy show and I didn't want to get food on my shirt, and all that. So I was looking at those videos and God, I remembered how good it was, and I'm so happy that you're doing something that you love now, and congratulations on all your success.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Jeremy, for coming on to the What Was I Thinking podcast. Again, you can find Jeremy on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube with the Mad Scientist BBQ accounts. Trust me, you're going to learn a lot. You're going to learn a lot. Your meat's going to taste better, and you're going to be an expert. Who's not going to want to come over if you can make barbecue the way that Jeremy makes it? And by the way, Jeremy, you need to do a video with your potato salad recipe. Still the best potato salad I've ever had, best brisket I've ever had. I'm going to put up on my Instagram if I can. I think that'll allow me. The stories I checked, like I said on there, the night that I met Jeremy, he gave me this huge to-go box, and I went and I met up with my buddy Eric, and we ate outside of a grocery store at 1 in the morning because the I normally am a hoarder and I don't like to share things, but something that delicious I had to share. And if there's anyone who appreciates man meat, it's Eric Rocha. Shout out, hey Eric, I miss you, buddy. He's not gonna listen. We'll find out if he does. Tag him. But thank you very much, Jeremy, for coming on. Thank you for watching and or listening. And if you enjoyed Jeremy's talk, don't forget he is going to be a little bonus on the waistline coming up because we just talked for like half an hour about how hard it is to lose weight. And he was so generous with his time. He's very knowledgeable, a wonderful guy. And if you don't check out his YouTube videos, I think you're a silly Billy. But hey, maybe you don't like delicious food, okay? Maybe you like seeds. I don't know. Can you smoke seeds? Well, I guess that's sort of like a 420 joke, but it's true. Just check it out. Even he gave that mac and cheese recipe. If you're vegetarian but you can still eat cheese, make that smoking cheese. I didn't even know that was possible. He smokes his cheese, and not but he envelops it in smoke. You heard? Didn't that sound delicious? I love mac and cheese. And you know what else I love? I love Manscaped. Want to thank Manscaped for that amazing. You made my sex life better. You made my entire life worth living again because someone described my balls as having a clean mouth feel. Really? And that's real. It's a text. It's a text that I have now, and I'm going to frame it when I get an apartment, because I can't frame it, because if I have a text up that says your balls have a clean mouthfeel and my mom asks me what does that mean, my life would be over. So eventually it will be framed up in an office. Thank you very much to Manscaped. Don't forget, go to manscaped.com and use code Syatt, SYATT, at checkout. And when you do that, you're going to get 20% off and free shipping. That's manscaped.com. Use code Syatt, SYATT, at checkout to get 20% off plus free shipping. And thank you very much for listening this week and every week. I have some great stuff coming for you. Don't forget to check out the YouTube page. And don't forget, Mother's Day and Father's Day, they're right around the corner. They'd love to hear from you. If you can afford a gift, that's great. Maybe take them to dinner, lunch, a snack. Everything goes back to food with me. I'm sorry. I like it and I want it. Thank you very much for listening and watching. This has been What Was I Thinking? Jeremy Yoder, Mad Scientist BBQ, was our great guest. And I am out of here. Bye, everybody.